So
Okay.
for those of you who don't know, my name is Susan Breen, and I am a member of the EA&E Member Relations team. We have Darlene Morse also. She's on the webinar here, but we can't see her. I'm very sad. Always happy to see Darlene's smiley face, that's for sure. But we're excited to have this conversation, and I thank you all for joining our 30 on the third Thursday. We do this every month for 30 minutes, and so this month, you know, we've invited our friend and great partner Linda Olbrys, and just for those of you who don't know Linda too well, which everyone knows Linda, that's just everyone knows Linda, that's for sure. But I'll give you a little background. So Linda served over 15 years as the VP of HR and Public Relations for everyone's favorite auto club, AAA, in Hartford and Cincinnati. And in the early 2000s, she transitioned to VP of Business Development for a large global outplacement firm. And then after just over 10 years there, she joined Career Curve. So Linda's got over 15 years of experience in the career transitions. So, but don't be adding up those numbers, because none of us like to do that, right? At this time in our careers. So we're excited to have this conversation, and we have a number of great, you know, ideas and thoughts to share. You know, this is a difficult job with HR folks, and so Linda has some great thoughts to share.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me. I always enjoy working with EA&E members. We work with other folks as well, but I really find that the EA&E member has a real concern about how their employees are doing and doing the right thing and following a best practice model to do everything that they do. And especially when something comes to a notification meeting that can be so difficult.
Right.
So what today's agenda, we thought we would talk about, just have a conversation. This conversation will feel like one-way conversation. The chat box is there for all of you. Yes. And Susan can interpret from that for me.
Yes, I will.
We'll have a conversation about the process and some common questions that come up regularly. We'll have a deeper conversation about the variety of emotions and the importance of communication and planning before this happens, before a person is separated, whether it's one person or 100, same processes, right? Pre and post event. We call the notification event an event. And then we'll do an overview of what our programs are, so you can kind of get some sense as to what does Career Curve do then for my people if I offer them outplacement as a part of their separation. So that's how we can kind of launch into it. And then that's really probably going to be our half hour.
Yeah,
also
that's right.
With questions and answers and folks, for you folks too. So
very good. So I think we wanted to start we'll start off with just a quick poll. If I can get look at this, I think I'm going to get it. Launch the poll. Okay. So if everyone could respond, have you ever conducted or participated in conducting a separation meeting? Okay, I'll give it another minute so everyone can get to this.
It's like most.
Yep.
Most have. A few lucky people have never had to do this. It's very interesting. Yeah, and to those people I say, good for you for never having to do this. But what I will say is that it can put you as an HR person in a real space of value in your company if you can kind of master the right way to do this. People will come to you of all levels in the organization and ask your advice on how this should go. Senior people, this can really, doing this well can really add value to you as an HR delivery person in the company. So I have to take these classes.
Okay. So let's see, we'll get rid of that. So Linda, I just wanted to start with just a few questions. So what are the most common questions that you get asked by HR folks?
You know, it's really interesting. This sounds so simple, but you would think it'd be a quick answer, but it's not. It's a little more complicated. The question I get asked the most, Linda, what's the best day of the week to notify an employee? And that may sound like, what difference does it make? Or, oh, of course it's Friday, because then it's over with. You got your weekend ahead of you, you know. A lot of that depends on your, Susan, I can still see the poll.
Yeah, it's silly. Oh, you can?
Yes.
Hmm.
Can you
Hold
X
on.
out of it?
Yeah, let's see if I can do that.
'Cause I think
My machine is working a little slow, so
like I can X.
here we go, poll.
I just X'd out of it. I don't know if that, maybe it was waiting for me to do that. Anyway, I don't see it now, so.
All right, so let's see. My moving to the next screen is moving very slowly, so hang on with me there, everybody.
So that day of the week, that seems like such a simple thing, right? Oh, do it on Friday, get it out of the way. And let's think about that from the perspective of the employee. So you notify an employee, they're provided paperwork. You usually encourage them to say, you know, feel welcome to have an attorney review the paperwork. We use an attorney to create the paperwork. You know, you feel welcome to have an attorney. And if you need the EAP or if you need whatever, call this person, call that person. Well, and then you send them on their way on a Friday. No one's available usually to speak with these people or calm them down on a Friday. So for instance, the only people they may really go speak with on a Friday into the weekend is their family, where they may be stewing for a weekend. They may reach out on social media right away. You don't want them doing that. I mean, the more accessible that you can make all the other support systems in place for that employee that's just been notified, the better. That's why frequently people do notifications Monday morning, midweek, first thing in the morning, maybe on a Thursday, maybe later toward the week, but at least there's another day of the week that if they need to see an attorney or whatever, they have time to do that. So we don't realize that we can kind of cut them off at the knees when we're doing this on a Friday. They're stewing over the weekend and they have a million questions for you 24 hours later, and you're not available to answer those questions.
Linda, that really makes a whole lot of sense. And then they make up things in their head too, right? So if that happens to you, you only hear so much, and then and then you go home and you have to tell your family. One, you might not know what to say, right? And then you might stop thinking, you make up the story, right? So I think, you know, you're really right. Fridays seem clean on a financial side, but not so much for the employee and for all of it around. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You really need to think twice about the day of the week. That's very important, because you want to be available to them too when they have questions. You don't want them launching those questions out on the internet. You want them to contact you or get clarification through you.
Great.
The other really common question we get asked is, who should deliver the news? How do you structure that meeting? Who should be the person telling the employee? You know, it always gets dumped on me in HR, but really that manager should be involved. So, you know, I hear that all the time. HR, get them to HR, HR will get them out of here and we'll move on. The best practice way to notify an employee of their job ending is to have a statement prepared in advance regarding the company's position on this person leaving or the manager's position on this person leaving. Whose decision was this and why? And you don't need to get into big time black and white detail, especially if it's a performance related issue. This interaction needs to be as above board, honest, but also calm and not disruptive as possible. So to structure this type of meeting, the manager or supervisor or whatever leader of the person needs to be the one saying, we've made a decision to terminate your employment, and that's effective the end of today, or the end of whatever your story is. Human Resources is here to explain to you how your pay is going to work, what we're providing you as benefits. And at that point, the leader turns it over to HR, and then HR picks up those pieces of, here's your COBRA paperwork, here's how this is going to work, we're paying you for the next 2 weeks, whatever that situation is, that's the nitty gritty. So we'll talk in future slides about what the actual emotional reaction is and what they may or may not actually hear in the moment. But that's really the appropriate structure of how a notification meeting should go. That manager should be responsible to deliver the news. HR is there to say, and here's what's being offered you as a benefit. And hopefully there's also outplacement included in that benefit, so that will help, a coach will help them get their resume together, help them face forward and get placed.
So Linda, just to ask a question. So how would Career Curve help in this situation at this point, before we get into some other things? But.
Right, that's a great question. So at Career Curve, we can actually be on site during the notification meeting. We wouldn't be in the same room with the notification meeting, but our coach can be standing by in a nearby conference room, a nearby office, so that after—
Or a nearby Zoom call.
Or on a Zoom call, right. During COVID, this is all being done on Zoom. This is all being done virtually now.
Right.
So we can be standing by. In that case, sometimes companies want the coach to call the employee right afterwards, and the employee is told, right after we hang up, you're going to be getting a call from a Career Curve coach that can tell you what you should probably do right away, not do right away, and then you'll set up a time to meet with them in greater depth later. But we are very open to coming on site. We have been on site during COVID at some other organizations that have been still working on site. A lot of essential workers have still been going in, HR folks are in. So we have been doing a lot of on-site work as well, but we've also done a lot of virtual work too. So, but let me explain what happens there, because that person, of course, is probably not going to be open to hearing about, oh yeah, I got to get my resume together now. What are you going to do for me? Frequently, there's so much emotion going on, they don't hear. They're not going to hear what you're telling them.
Yeah, right.
But what the coach is going to do, the coach is going to diminish and mitigate any crazy emotion going on. They're going to get them focused on, look, this is not a time to think about calling your friends and begging for a job. You don't have your story straight yet. You don't have an exit statement yet. Why did I leave there? You don't have an objective statement. What do I want to do next? You need to tell your family. Let's talk about who the people are closest to you that you trust that you need to tell right away. So the coach can frequently help with that.
That's excellent, Linda.
The other major thing the coach helps with is, don't go home and jump on social media. Because don't go on and badmouth your company, because it's going to reflect on you when you're out now looking for your next employment.
Very good
those
point.
are two major things that the coach thinks is really critical to meet with and get them kind of focused on. So.
Okay, we'll move on here then.
Yep.
This is a big one, Linda. Managing the emotions, and it's something that you have to think about before.
You really do, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because obviously, whatever that reaction is, and we'll talk about the variety of reactions in a moment, whatever that reaction is, you do need to acknowledge somewhat of an understanding of those feelings and acknowledge that reaction. When you see the anger, I understand you're angry. We've made this decision at the highest level in a company, for instance. You need to resist the urge to justify the decision. This is frequently, sometimes HR people need to rein in the manager that has been trying to deal with this person for months and maybe years in some cases, and they're trying to stick it to them in this meeting. That is not what we want to happen. This needs to be an absolute calm process, as calm as possible. The leader and the HR person in the room need to be as calm and level-headed about this as possible. So, and all of these slides, by the way, I won't go through all these bullets. These slides are available to you. There's a link that I think, Susan, you're providing somehow in the chat feature, or?
Yes, we'll see if I
Okay.
can do that. What I think I'll probably do is I'll email it to everyone.
Email it after the fact.
I'll
right.
email it to everyone, and then once we get the recording up on the site, we can send you that link too if you wanted to share this with anyone else in your organization or your other HR friends.
And also thanking them for their contribution to the organization. They're usually surprised when you thank them. You know, you've been here many years, so we really want to thank you for what you've done, but we've made some changes and we need to move forward, you know. So all of these points are important. I don't mean to skip over them. We only have a half hour, so that's why I'm sort of want to move through this. So we'll go to the next slide. So many of you are aware that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, back in the late 60s actually, studied grief. She was a psychiatrist, a Swedish psychiatrist that did a lot of work at the University of Chicago, and she studied the process of grief because frankly, nobody else was doing it, and she had a ton of terminally ill patients. And she really was trying to get a handle on what am I seeing? She gathered data from many, many terminally ill patients that were trying to deal with their grief and their loss, and their families also. So she determined that there are basically 5 basic emotions regarding to change, significant emotional event, not just on death and dying, not just on grief, but frankly, the loss of a job is a big void in people's lives and very much looks like grief to many people. So any of these reactions, and there's no order to this, but she developed these 5, or she determined there were these 5 stages of grief based on this. So shock and denial is huge. I have been a part of more than one notification meeting where the employee got up and went back to his desk and did not, they were completely in denial. This did not happen to me. I'm going back to my desk. I'm going to do my work. You know, really, they can absolutely dig in their feet and say, this is not happening to me. Anger, I'm going to call my friend that's the board member at the company because I know blah, blah, blah. You have to deal with that type of an issue. Bargaining, negotiation, why me? The guy next to me came in late every day for 35 years. Why am I the one being let go? They're going to want to pull you into some of these emotions, and that can really, really be difficult and can get the meeting a bit out of control. So by just sort of acknowledging the emotion, and I have another chart here that's going to show you how to deal with some of those emotions. So if you go to the next slide.
Okay, hang on. Come on, technology. Oh,
there we go. Okay, so here's a number of the emotions that you just saw. Most of them were on that previous slide. So when you see shock, you know, you need to acknowledge that I understand this is a shock. You know, it is a shock, and you would as an HR person understand this is a terrible shock, but we think this is in the best interest of both of us, of both parties. And by the way, we've provided some services for you to help you get your resume together, get you focused in the right direction toward your next opportunity. Disbelief and denial, anger. I mean, you've got to let the employee vent, and you also want to determine the level of anger. Is this employee going to leave the room now and be a threat to the rest of the organization or their department? Are they a threat to themselves? You need to sort of analyze that, but then try to kind of diffuse and mitigate that anger. And then bargaining, depression, you see the rest of these here. But you know, once they get through to acceptance, well, we'll talk about that in a minute on the rest of the department left behind after the employee leaves. But you know, depression, they could express sadness immediately. You don't know what's happening in their lives, and as good as I think I am as understanding what people are going to say before they open their mouths, I was always wrong when it came to a termination meeting, because I never
it's
knew.
very emotional, right?
Yeah.
So you certainly want to think about the room that you're in. You certainly want to have a box of tissues ready just in case. And you want to think about, you know, where you're sitting, where they're going to sit,
That's right.
Where is the room, in regards to the door? You always want to have, I don't think we don't always want to have two people, right? We did say
Right.
that, right?
Right.
So,
Well, and usually you have that when you have your leader and your HR person
Yeah.
under the best practice.
so that's,
But still, you want to be sure there's an easy escape route.
mhm,
If you see the anger really start to escalate, one of you may need to leave and call the authorities.
right,
Or if you have a glass room, which you usually don't like to do, but there's some corporate areas where there's not a lot of traffic and there's a glass room, so someone can kind of have the inside scoop that what's happening in that room. I'm going to keep an eye on them. If it looks like it's getting out of hand, I'm dialing 911. Or
right,
I know this person has been a threat before. We're going to let the police know that we're doing this today
yeah,
and
yeah.
make them, just put them on notice so that perhaps they're standing by outside the building, or if we need them, they're
Right.
standing by. So
Right. And
careful you
I've
can do that.
been two meetings of late that kind of discussed this. One of them was our friends, another partner, the PASS folks, and they're policemen, they're officers.
Oh, yes.
And they were really thinking about make sure you're in the room and make sure that you can get to the door, because they were
Yes.
worried about the HR person's safety.
Yes.
Then I was on another call with the SHRM chapter, that conference, and they had an investigations expert on. And he was saying that you need to make sure the person that you're letting go or interviewing, investigating, can quickly get out, because he's seen them get in trouble in the courts because they said they were held hostage. So you really need to really think about that room
Yeah.
and to manage all of that, right? It just can't be on the fly. So you really have to,
That's right.
preparation, right?
And as always, HR isn't a no-win position, right? As often as you try to do that, but you do have to think about people's reaction to such significant emotional events such as this. There is that fight or flight that we
Right.
hear about all the time. And if they want to fly out of the meeting, many times the career coach is in the room next door waiting for them, and they're out of there. They just want to get out of that building. They want to fly away, and we get that. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fight or flight. If they want to stay and really duke it out, that can also be a problem. There's got to be
Right.
safety balance in place.
All right. Let's see what we have next.
So again, the extreme reactions is really what we were just talking about there. The extreme anger, recognizing that, getting them help. If your employee assistance program may also want to be put on notice, you want to have the number right there for the person. Maybe that's part of their separation information in their COBRA package. That kind of thing. So, and manipulating, there are so many people in that moment that try to start negotiating to go back to the workplace and keep that job. They need to know, I'm sorry, this is a final decision that's been made at the highest level in the organization. So this is your last day. Here's your last check. Here's your da. They need to know it's done. There isn't a negotiation. You can let them spout off about it a little bit, but then you need to draw a curtain and say, I'm sorry, this decision has been made throughout the company. Well, I'm going to go talk to so-and-so. That person's already aware because, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's done. Now what?
Yeah, it's done. It's done. Whatever business reason you've given the employee, I want to make sure we're not running out of time yet.
Yep, we're doing well.
Okay. Whatever business decision you've given the employee, we're making a change right now, and we no longer see you in the new organization. Whatever that decision is, it needs to somehow match the news you're bringing back to the rest of the organization. And the organization needs to know right away. And when I say organization, obviously that depends on the size of your organization. If this person came from a small department that's like a family, you absolutely need to hold like a town hall meeting afterwards, that kind of thing. So there are some basic guidelines you need to use, not only for your meeting with the employee, but also the employee meetings, that those folks that have been left behind of your post meeting. Everything needs to be done with dignity and respect. The words have to emulate your company values and how you treat people. Most of us have comments and statements now about how we treat our employees. Make sure this is aligned with whatever that statement is that you have about your organization. Honest and open communication, timing to communicate to the employees. That's okay. We can go right to this. This is fine.
Okay. All right.
As soon as possible after that notification meeting, the employees are going to say, "Where's Bill? Why didn't he come back from lunch? Or what happened after that meeting? Bill isn't here." You've really got to gather the troops together and let them know that I just want you to know that Bill is no longer with us. But you also have to be prepared for some questions that are going to come up. You do want to be transparent. You know, we really, you don't want to talk about Bill had terrible performance and thank God he's gone. I mean, you don't want to do that, obviously, but you need to say that, you know, it really in keeping with how we believe we treat each other and how the organization wants to move forward, we really needed to make a change. And so I have faith in all of you that you can all pick up some pieces and that kind of thing. So, but the other piece of this is the leader should keep their door open. The leader should remain available and remain visible to kind of see what the chit chat is that's going on and be available if someone wants to have a one-on-one conversation. Employees are also going to go through the change curve. Can you flip back to oh, this may not be easy to do, huh?
Let's see. Look at this.
There she goes. Okay. You go back to the change curve. The employees left behind are also going through a portion of grief and loss, right? So you have to, as the leader of the organization and as the HR person in the organization, you need to be aware of this. And let me just tell you, if you look at the dip here for depression, when you look at how that trajectory to acceptance rises, the sooner you can get an organization back to acceptance as to what's happened and move forward, the sooner the organization becomes productive again. So that's a critical thing to know. Don't disregard we're feeling all these things. Good heavens, is it going to be me next? What's going on? I better start, what's going on? Oh, this is so depressing. They're just going to cut us loose. The sooner you can gather the troops, make some kind of a statement about, we don't anticipate this happening again. I can't guarantee that. But the sooner you get them all to that acceptance curve, the sooner you're going to have a productive workforce again. Critically important. Any questions? Are we able to see if anybody's got questions at this point?
There's nothing in the chat box. I don't see.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Okay. So when you communicate, whoops.
I'm going to go back. Should I go forward or back?
So in the front, no, this is good.
There we go.
Yeah. So when you explain your situation to the employees, you need to be very broad. And I have to say, for the sake of the legal folks, you never want to say, don't worry, this isn't going to happen again. This won't happen again. You never want to say that. Once you start promising people no one's going to leave the company again, you're dipping into the implied contract stuff, and you don't want to go there as a human resources person. You don't want anyone saying, she guaranteed me a job for at least the rest of the year. So you have to be really careful about how you want to word things, which is great to write them down in advance. But you want to explain the situation, who was impacted. No more planned separations, but you know what? It's COVID, and our bottom line has been very negatively impacted or whatever. So we are always going to be looking to keep the best and the most engaged people moving forward. That's our go forward plan, aligned with our mission and values. But people will understand that. And backing up just a minute, it's important to tell them we were able to get this person an additional benefit that's called outplacement. And by providing that person outplacement, we're giving him help. He's not here anymore, but he is going to be working with a career coach to put his resume together, to learn how to network, And, you know, that person may decide to make a career change. They may decide to retire. That coach can help them through any of those plans.
Excellent.
Okay. And again, this communication plan, you need to really think about it in advance of the notification meeting, because we spend so much time planning for that notification meeting, and then we forget about the people back that are left behind. And now what do we tell them, you know? So that communication to employees is critical. So in the weeks following, we still recommend the leader be very, very visible. Keep to the message. Keep whatever that message is that you've written out. You know, we don't anticipate more changes, but we want to keep aligned. We want to make sure that all of our employees are aligned with our goals and blah, 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 whatever that message is. And get those messages approved, by the way, at the highest level in your organization. Continue to communicate.
Advice.
Well, and you get to restate, what is it we're trying to do here? You know, what are we really trying to do with this company? And then really stick with that.
And I think you're right. You have to say it again, because that first day, remember that they could be in that shock mode, and then they're not hearing it quite correctly. So you're right. It's important to keep the message moving along so that they're not making things up. That's what, you know, that's what we do in our brains, you know.
Like
so
in our heads. We get in our heads.
Yeah, us humans in our heads could do some bad things. So
many people
tell me a little bit about like the different programs that you offer, right?
Right. So one of the big questions people ask is, what is this outplacement? What do they actually get with outplacement? So let's just look at the bronze program first off. The bronze program tends to be for the non-exempt employee, for the non-exempt or entry-level employee, and that gets them everything from a dedicated phone and email coach that helps them define their career goals, identify references, kind of does an inventory of their skills to make sure they're applying for things appropriate to what they're good at. Professional resume. I mean, there's a lot of entry-level people that don't have a professional resume, and that alone can set people apart from other people trying to get other entry-level work. So all of these components you see here in this bronze column are what are included in that program. As you move from the right to the left, you see there's more additional pieces in each one of those columns. And you also see bold typeface. Those bolded statements are in addition to what you've seen in the previous column. So you don't have to read the whole column again. You know that the silver program, now you're getting a little more strategic. This may be for supervisor, individual contributor, marketing coordinator.
What's the most popular one, Linda?
Well, honestly, because so many individual contributors and supervisory level people are impacted, the silver is probably the most popular one, but it's really based on, that's because of the level of people being given this product. Right. So gold, for instance, tends to be more your director level, your managerial level, and then the executive level is the one on the far left, very strategic, you know, how to work with search firms, you know, how to engage search firms and consultants and things like that.
So Linda, I just want to know, like, so what's the difference? You know, there are other transition firms that do similar things as yours, but what's the difference between Career Curve?
If I can summarize the major difference, and it's the reason I left my previous firm, because when I heard about this model, I thought it was great. Career Curve provides your employee with a career coach that stays and works with them until they've landed their next role. Most career curve, all other career curves, all other outplacement firms I'm aware of, every other one I know about has a time-limited program. You're a bronze level, we're going to give you a 1-month program. You're a supervisor, you get a 3-month. You're a manager, you get a 6. You're an executive, you get 12 or 18 months. You know, you don't know how long it's going to take a person to really find their next opportunity, especially if they decide to switch careers. That may take a little bit longer. So our coaches are well equipped and love this model because they are the ones doing the outreach. We don't have a coach on call for the day. The person is assigned a coach and works with that person through the whole process.
And if I think about that model, Linda, the coach themselves are motivated to find that next position, because
Coaches,
that's when, right? Because then they can move on to somebody else. So
that's right.
that's a huge difference, because that
that
others they'll
motivates.
just keep pushing it off, right?
That's right.
Because
that is
I'm
what
almost
motivates.
up.
Coaches love to see their people succeed. They love that.
Of course.
And we encourage them to drive the process.
Right.
In other firms, they're encouraged to engage. Invoicing goes out, and then you find out later on LinkedIn if somebody landed. Nobody knows. Our landing data is accurate because we know it. We know when someone lands, the coaching engagement's done. That's awesome. When the coach knows they're done. So it's a wonderful model, and it's really catching on. There's a lot of people excited about this model too. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And and we'll just kind of look at the different prices here, and you can see, being an EANE member, you do get a reduced rate. And and the reason EANE is really a partner with Career Curve is really what you just spoke about, because our members feel, they want to do the best thing for their employees. Right. That's what we find. And so this is just, as we look at career, transition services, this is why we feel it's the best one, and this is why we're partnering with you. So this is fabulous. Linda, this has been great.
Thanks.
Either, like I said, we will have this information. I'll email it to everyone. If anyone has any questions, I don't see anything in the chat box or in our Q&A. But, Linda, is there anything else that you wanted to share? I know we're a little bit over. Oh gosh, 10 minutes, 9 minutes, Linda.
Uh-oh.
That's pretty good for us.
They want. They may not let us do this again. No, if anyone has any questions, I actually have availability until 3:30 today. If anyone wants to call and have a conversation, but call anytime anyway. I mean, I would be welcome to discuss it, because it's I'm so proud of this work that we do. I think Career Curve does it the best any firm I've ever seen. So I'm always happy to brag about it.
All right. Well, thank you, Linda, very much for spending some time with us today. And thank you to all the members really for jumping in on this call as well. We hope you were able to, gain some insight and thinking about, and hopefully you don't ever have to do it, because, it's not pleasant for sure. So everyone have a great day.
You want to do it right and get it done.
You're right.
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Thank you, Linda.